Hey, welcome to another week with myself, Thaakir Dawood. Welcome to TD Online, and this is our fourth episode. This evening, I'm joined by a very special guest all the way from New Zealand. He's a former Hurricane fly-off fullback. He's also a 2016 Super Rugby winner. He's played out in London, or let's say he's played out in Europe for London Irish. He's also made his way to Japan and played in the top league in Japan. This evening, I'm joined by none other than the guy that broke a lot of South Africans' hearts, especially Johannesburg Lions supporters, when he went on and played an intricate role in the Hurricanes beating the Lions in 2016 in the Cape Town on a wet evening. Good evening, James. Thank you so much for joining me, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. Really cool intro. Love the little beat. The visuals was really cool effect. Love your work.
Thanks so much, man. Just have to switch it up sometimes. James, it's such an honor having you on the show, man. It's really an honor. It's a pleasure. It's always good getting other perspectives outside of South Africa and just seeing how other people see the game. James, it's 2021. You've had a phenomenal career. What you've been getting up to post lockdown, other than What a Lad podcast? Do you want to tell us more about that?
Yeah, so I had hip surgery straight after lockdown. So I was struggling with a hip injury for the last couple of years of my career. Got the surgery done, and it was always going to be a bit touch and go whether I'd be able to play again. So when I got that news, I decided to start thinking what I'm going to try doing after rugby. I always had a few ideas of things I wanted to do, so it was time to start actioning a few of those. So one of them was the podcast, What a Lad podcast. Been loving doing that. Just basically what I've tried to do is just give people an insight into what guys are like in the changing rooms. The guys that I got to know and I've loved spending time with, trying to give the fans and the public a little bit of what they're really like, because when they go and speak to the media, they're always very cliche. They don't really like to share their personalities, but there's one thing I try to do is give them a comfortable situation where they feel comfortable to be themselves and show what they're really like as people. So I've really enjoyed doing that. I've had some good feedback from it so far and just looking to grow that at the moment. But I've also been getting into some coaching. So that transition happened pretty quick when Carlos left the Hurricanes mid-season. I sort of had an opportunity to take over a little bit of a coaching role there with the Hurricanes, and then now I'm down in Tasman and Nelson. So I'll be working with the Tasman Mako this season in the Mitre 10 Cup. So looking forward to that as well.
Nice, man. Back to where it all started in Nelson. Hey, James, look, you've had a phenomenal career and you've played a number of Super Rugby matches. You've also toured South Africa quite a bit. South Africa is now out of the Super Rugby. Do you think this will improve the quality of rugby in the Southern Hemisphere? Or do you think that the quality of rugby in the Southern Hemisphere will go down a bit?
It's definitely not going to improve it for sure. I mean, it's going to be hard to know how much of an effect it has. I think the big thing that all the countries will miss is just playing the different styles. So all the Kiwi teams play a pretty similar style of rugby, just with slight variations. Aussies are completely different style, and then the South Africans are completely different style again. So I think especially the Kiwi sides will really miss playing that South African style of rugby, and I guess it will sort of make the Rugby Championship a little bit more interesting, because we wouldn't have played that style for the whole year. So it is going to be interesting to see what sort of effect it has, but I think that's going to be the thing that all three sides are really going to miss, to be fair.
No, definitely. I think it's gonna be a weird adjustment, because I'm gonna miss those mornings waking up as a South African kid at 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning, just to watch a South African versus a New Zealand team. Those are some of the memories that obviously we grew up with. Where do you think it went wrong for the Super Rugby when the tournament just became, let's say, monotonous, if you want to call it that?
Yeah, it's so hard to pinpoint. It was such a slow, gradual thing, I felt. we just kept trying to change it a lot, and then I don't know if it was getting the buy-in that they were expecting. So it is hard to pinpoint where it actually went wrong, but it is a shame. I mean, those tours in South Africa were some of the best times you'd have as a Super Rugby player, as a Kiwi, and like you say, some experiences. Like, it's different over here. We had to get up at 3 in the morning to watch some of those games, but I used to love getting up and watching, especially when the Hurricanes were playing back in the day. I used to love getting up in the morning, middle of the night, and watching the boys, and then go back to sleep after the game, because you just knew that it was a big game or something, and you knew they would have been in for a good fight. So, no, some good memories, like you say, of the games over there.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a shame that the tournament obviously has come to an end. James, if you look back at it, you mentioned the good memories. What are some of your favorite memories touring to South Africa?
Mate, I used to just love the 2 weeks in a new country with the team. You got to know the guys really well. It was a really good time to bond as a group, and we got to do some really amazing things. Like on our days off, they'd always give you a list of options to choose. So I went on a couple of safaris, I went shark diving, all these things that I'd never be able to do here in New Zealand. Got to go around some of the poorer parts of Johannesburg, which was really eye-opening, to see the contrast in lives. You don't really get that here in New Zealand. It was quite eye-opening to see. But just the different lifestyles over there. It's all the like barbed wire fences and things like that. It's just crazy to see all these houses like so secure because of, I guess, the dangers over there. So it was pretty amazing, and it's such an awesome country to travel. I mean, the fans are just next level. I mean, when the bus would rock up, they'd just be banging on the bus and just so keen to see the boys, the All Black boys. Like, as soon as like a Bodie or TJ would rock out of that bus, everyone was just going mad, like trying to get them over for a photo or things like that. It was really cool to see the passion that they all had for rugby. So yeah, I loved my time over there.
And it obviously made it easier being a New Zealander, knowing that the South Africans have such a love for you guys, especially down in Cape Town. I know there's quite a big New Zealand fan base. There's even the Crusaders have a massive fan base down there. But yeah, man, I think those are some of the memories that will be cherished and missed. And it's just sad that the generation coming after you won't get to experience the same experiences that you've obviously experienced.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that is the sad part about it. But it is interesting why the South Africans support the Kiwis so much. I never really knew the story behind that. But like you say, my brother played with the Crusaders for a couple of years, and his memories of playing in Cape Town was just like, couldn't believe it. You know, it was like a home game for them over there. Everyone was supporting them, and they just loved it. So it is pretty crazy. And like we talked about, it was a really cool experience.
So yeah, you were talking a bit about like why the South Africans support the All Blacks. So if we go way back to the apartheid era, South Africans, let's say people of color, weren't allowed to represent the Springboks or the so-called Springboks. And there was this division where rugby was actually played between your whites and your non-whites. So what happened was that there was a union that came together. They were called SACOS, and their motto was no normal sport in an abnormal society. And this is why the South African non-whites tended to actually support the All Blacks, because they just didn't see themselves supporting a national team that represented a minority of the country and not a true representation of the entire country, if that makes sense.
True, yeah, makes sense, mate. Now I see why they were supporting them. Yeah, makes great sense.
It's quite deep, and I mean, like offline, myself and you can have these chats for days about the history of rugby in South Africa and how it actually came to where we are today. And I think that the new generation of South Africans after Unity, Nelson Mandela came, and we found that the Springboks now have a team that has a proper representation of South Africa. And last year 2 years ago at the World Cup, we seen for the first time a black captain in Siya Kolisi lifting the World Cup. So yeah, it just shows that
was
there's progress being made. Yeah, I mean, you New Zealanders obviously can't celebrate much about that World Cup. But talking about celebrations, I mean, let's get to a moment where you broke my heart as a Joburg boy and a lot of other South Africans' hearts. What was it like playing in that Super Rugby final, man? 2016, it's wet. You were a runner of the ball. And I mean, what was your job that day on the field? Because there wasn't much running to do with the ball.
Yeah, I guess it was just backfield coverage and playing the right decisions, which was a lot of it was kicking the ball. So, that game was, I mean, when we realised the conditions were going to be like that, it was pretty disappointing, but we'd sort of built our whole campaign on our defence. So we thought it was going to suit us more than it would suit the Lions. And obviously it's like that over in Willington a fair bit, not so much in Joburg. So we were probably, it probably suited us more than it did suit them. So we sort of thought about that and just sort of looked to play as much as that final without the ball, which, as boring as it is, we got a try from I think it was like a charge down Corey Jane in the corner and an overthrow from Bodie.
It was, both tries were just so crazy because I think that Elton actually passed the ball, skip pass to Lionel Mapu, has been having a phenomenal season. And it was on because there was nobody on cover defense. I don't know where you were, probably stuck in the ruck. And Lionel Mapu grabbed the ball. He grabbed that ball straight into Corey Jane's hand. It was just I don't know. It was out of this world.
Yeah, and well, that was the whole part of that game. Like, we knew that it was going to come down to some little moments, and they're probably going to be on defense. So, and they were. One was an overthrow where Bodie just managed to land on it. So they were pretty. When you look back at it, they were two pretty average tries, and it wasn't a great final, I would say. But when you get the result, I mean, that's all that matters. Because to be fair, the year before when we played the Highlanders, probably one of the best finals, but we came out on the wrong end of it. So, I mean, I'd rather play the average final and win than the best final and lose. So that was a good learning.
No, I can imagine. I mean, was that possibly one of the best matches that you've played in your career? One of your top 3 memories?
Yeah, for sure. It's pretty special, like, especially after the year before. Like, there was a lot of heartbreak after that first 2015 final. We sort of, I don't know if we expected it, but we definitely knew we were favourites going into that final, and to lose it the way we did was pretty tough to take, especially at home in front of a packed house. It could have been something special, but the following year to have another home final was a pretty impressive achievement, and we just knew that we couldn't make the same mistakes as we did from the year before. So there's a lot of learnings that went on, which was really cool, and the celebrations after that final were pretty special.
I can just imagine. I mean, there was a pretty special bunch of players in that team, if you look at it. And I mean, we've now spoken about the 2016 Super Rugby final. What are some of your most memorable moments in your career that you'll obviously cherish forever?
Yeah, one other one that stands out to me is the ITM Cup final for Taranaki. We were playing Tasman in 2014. It was a crazy experience. There, I was captain of the side, so really enjoyed that year. I had a new group of guys, and we were like the complete outsiders. So everyone was writing us off. The TAB had us $30, which was the most. So no one expected us to win. So to go through that year, we actually lost our first 2 games as well. So our season looked pretty much almost dust. Everyone had completely written us off by then, but something changed, and we just started winning and growing momentum, and ended up having a home final in front of a packed Taranaki Yarrow Stadium, which was awesome, and the crowd was just next level. And I was obviously playing up against my brother and a lot of ex-teammates at Tasman, and it was just a moment that will always be special to me. It was such an intense game for me, and to come out on the right side of that one was a memory I'll never forget, for sure.
And I think just for the rugby public out there that are not too familiar with who your brother is? Do you just want to educate them, please, and tell them exactly who your brother is and what a classy lad he is?
So my brother's Tom Marshall. He played for the Crusaders initially. I think he had maybe four years down there, was mainly playing on the wing, a little bit at fullback, and then he moved up to the Chiefs, and then he's been over in Gloucester, where a lot of South Africans are as well. He's been playing with under Johan Ackerman there, and Johan's obviously moved to Japan, and he's taken my brother with him. So I think they get along really well. He enjoys playing under him, and he's a quality player, actually. Yeah.
I think Johan Ackerman obviously seen a bit of you in your brother, and then knowing that he lost to you in the Super Rugby final, he said no, he has to take your brother with him. James, you said you played against your brother. I mean, was there a bit of a late shoulder in there, or a bit of a shove in the face in the mud when you played against him, or was it all love, just hugs and kisses?
Well, we ended up playing each other a fair bit throughout our career, like especially when I was at the Hurricanes. He was at the Crusaders and Chiefs. A lot of times Tasman and Taranaki, and even London Irish when I was over there. Played against him twice while he was playing for Gloucester. So we played against each other a lot, and it was generally all right, but that final was... it was everything. We were both doing everything we could to win, and there's a lot of abuse, and anything we could do to each other off the ball was happening. So that one was a little bit different. We could feel the tension in that game.
Yeah, did you get a bit personal and tell him that if he hits you too hard, you're going to tell mom when you get home?
He actually didn't talk to me for a couple of weeks after that game, so it wasn't a good one, that one.
What did you do to the poor kid? Come on, James, share that secret with us.
Mate, there was just a lot of banter from both sides. So a lot of the Tasman guys were just into me, and every mistake he made, I was just letting him know how bad he was and how bad he was playing. So, and he was doing the same to me. It was just one of those games where we were just... I think we both had pretty average games, to be fair. We were both in the red too much, just worrying too much about like this personal battle that we were having, like between each other and between this guys as well, because they were all into me. So it was just one of those games where emotion probably got the better of both of us.
But it's so crazy, like once that 80 minutes are done and you're off the pitch and obviously the celebrations are done, you forget about it, and then you're back to being siblings, and then it's just like a different relationship that's birthed off. Do you feel like your brother was kind of your safe zone outside of rugby when you just wanted to clear your mind and forget about everything?
Yeah, well, he's always been someone who I've relied on a lot throughout my career. He actually made his Super Rugby debut before me, even though he's younger. So he I might have led the path for him up into becoming a professional, but since then, I've really been following his footsteps and learning from what he's done. He's been a really good player and really good guidance for me throughout my career, and especially now, like he's over in Japan. He's doing sort of things that I've just done for the last couple of years. So it's been awesome to be able to bounce ideas off him, and I guess for him to be able to bounce ideas off me, because I mean we've been similar positions throughout our career as well, both mainly at fullback. And that's a good photo there. I like that one.
I think we're going to pop it up on screen for everybody to see it. As the one under Spark, that one there.
Yeah, I like that one. Yeah, he did manage to just hold on to my shorts there, so he did get me down.
Some brother love there, some brother love. Hopefully we can get him on the show soon and get to hear his side of the story, James. And then we can maybe see if you're talking the truth.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear what he says. Yeah, for sure.
No, definitely, James. If you look at it, you said that you've also went and you played over in Europe, and as you know, South Africa is going to be going over to Europe, participating in the Rainbow Cup, which should now be, say, the existence of the Pro 6, Pro 14 added with the South African teams in them. Southern Hemisphere rugby compared to Northern Hemisphere rugby, let's say on a club level, what are some of the key differences that you've seen when you went over to play in Europe, and how did you have to adjust your game?
So it was just completely different focuses, eh? So in New Zealand, it was about how can we attack in a lot of these situations, whereas it was such a heavy set piece focus and kicking focus over in the UK. So scrum was such an important part of the game. The line out maul and how you can defend it was massive. So teams would be happily score sort of 6 mauling tries, and mate, if you can't defend your maul, you wouldn't win the game. It was that simple, because teams would just punish you if you had an average maul or an average scrum. So whereas I feel like in New Zealand you'd probably get away with that a little bit. Teams would might maul once and then they'd try some sort of peel or some play, try and go wide or something like that. That was the biggest focus. And for me as fullback, I mean, my role changed to being, I had to be really good under the high ball, because I was receiving so many of them, which was never a strength of my game, to be fair. It wasn't something that I would have prided myself on heading over there, but I just had to do so many takes in a game. It become probably my most important part of my game over there, and just the decisions on when to kick, when to run was definitely different. And I feel like it probably took me a while to get used to. Wasn't so much playing the space, it was just playing the territory and trying to suffocate teams instead of punish them, I guess.
And you said that obviously it's more set piece based, and that's if you compare the South African teams to the New Zealand teams, I think a lot of our game is set piece based. If you look at the Bulls team that won the Super Rugby in 2009, for example, when they had the Buckies Bottas, the Victor Matfields, that was literally set piece based, because the Bulls became known for literally just mauling it up, and then that's how they'd score their tries. So I think that South Africa could possibly fit in there. However, it would just be adapting to the conditions, because you've been out in SA, and I mean, you've seen that it's dry conditions, it's beautiful weather, and over there it's just miserable weather all the time.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I do think South Africans will suit the style, and you see all the players who go over there, and they fit in really well. They all play really well in the English Premiership anyway, which the comp that I was playing in more recently. So a lot of the star players throughout that comp were South Africans. You had your Faf, and you had all the hard running 12s and your big ball carrying number 8s and loose forwards. They all seem to go really well over there. So I think they suit the style, and I think the South African teams will suit the style. But like you say, the conditions will be, I think it'll probably be more getting used to for the Europe teams coming to South Africa and dealing with that heat and altitude. I think they'll struggle more than the South African teams will going to the cold, because I guess they're a little bit used to it coming to New Zealand in the winter months and stuff. But the field conditions, a lot of the field conditions can be quite average. So that might take a little bit of getting used to. But I think, like I said, I think the South African teams will handle a little bit easier than the other sides coming to South Africa.
Was that something that you struggled with when you came to SA, the altitude and the conditions?
Not like, I was always quite like, one of my strengths was always my fitness, so it wasn't a huge thing for me. The altitude was something I really noticed though. So the burning, the dry throat, those sort of things. It was a bit of a shock. But I do know, like, you could tell from our forward pack and just the way we had to start playing towards the back end of games, that we were just completely gassed. Like, a lot of guys really did struggle with it, and I guess that's why the Lions and stuff have so much sort of success in those sort of last 20s of the game. One that stands out is that final. Don't want to bring up another final loss for you, but when the Crusaders played the Lions in that final, and I mean, the Lions only had 14 men, and I think they scored about 20, 30 points in the last sort of 20 minutes to make the final a real spectacle. And if they had 15 men on the field, without a doubt, they would have won that game. I got no question about that. You could just see that the Crusaders had been gassed. They'd had travel, and then the altitude and all those things sort of add up, and they were just gone for that last 20 minutes and just managed to hang on.
Yeah, I think that was quite interesting. And I mean, moving from Welcome back to TD Online. I'm still joined on the line by James Marshall, the New Zealander. We gave him a bit of South African flavor when we had some load shedding going down on us. James, do you guys get some load shedding out in New Zealand?
No, I'd honestly never heard of it until you mentioned it before. But we don't really have that. But you get the odd power cut now and again. But no, not quite like that.
Well, brother, when you come visit, I'm going to be showing you a lot of South Africa, and you'll get to experience quite a bit of the load shedding part of it.
I look forward to it.
James, let's jump into the final segment of this interview. The big one is coming. The big one is coming to town. The British and Irish Lions are coming to South Africa. They last visited New Zealand, where the series was drawn between New Zealand and the British and Irish Lions. Dude, what was that experience like in New Zealand and having the Barmy Army coming to town?
Yeah, it was obviously amazing. So probably other than the World Cup, it's probably the next biggest thing in rugby, I'd say. And the whole country got behind it. It was awesome because they were also playing the super teams as well midweek. So It was just a real awesome tour, and the footy delivered. I mean, it was a close series. You don't get closer, do you? It was a drawn series, which is pretty crazy, and a lot of controversial calls within that. So it was just one of those tournaments, series that really everyone got in behind, and it made it delivered, I felt.
And I mean, with you into content creation and myself, we do know that drama makes for the best content. And what better than that series jam-packed with drama? I mean, Sonny Bill, one of the cleanest players in the game, rugby that is. When it comes to league, we know that he gives a shoulder or two there. And we've seen him get a bit of a red card. And how didn't that just change the entire series around for the New Zealanders?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was a big moment. Red cards. I like what they're doing at the moment around red cards with the 20 minutes and then you can replace them, because I just think a red card just sort of kills the game, especially when it's early on. And you could see, I think that might have been 20 minutes into the game. And with the rules, what they're going with the game, I mean, it was a fair red card, but it just made it too hard for the All Blacks to be able to win that game after that moment. They actually did really well. I thought they battled on really well, and it wasn't a big score. But, it was a huge moment in the series. And even though that happened going into that last game, I mean, they had every right to be winning that last game. But, I mean, the Lions played really well. And, I mean, that was the fitting result in the end, was the draw, because I mean that last game was as intense as you get.
And I think it's quite crazy to see the number of guys in that British and Irish Lions team that represented England in the 2019 Rugby World Cup final. It was almost like these guys who are you were coach, and you'd know it's almost like you get periodization. And once they just a little bit undercooked, and by the time they reached the final of the World Cup, they got one over. The English got one over New Zealand. And I think that was where the English played their best game, beating the New Zealanders in that semi. Moving on, I mean, James, did you manage to play any games, the midweek games, when they played against the super teams?
No, I was actually over in England at the time. I was still playing for London Irish, so I was just watching from afar. But I know, talking to a lot of the boys who were involved in that game, that's all of them have it as one of their highlights of their career. It was such a cool experience for them. I mean, you don't often get to play and sold out at Westpac Stadium, sold out for the Hurricanes, unless you're in the final pretty much. So to have the British and Irish Lions opportunity to play in front of a packed house, just a whole different intensity, and playing against some of the best players in the world. I know for a lot of the boys that was, right up there as one of their highlights of their career.
I can just imagine. And I mean, the fans play quite an important part in the British and Irish Lions performing the way they do. With COVID around, and we do know that in South Africa at the moment, there is no fans allowed in the stadiums at all. Do you think this could take some of that spirit away from the tour itself? Because it's basically based around the Barmy Army coming to town.
Yeah, I mean, even sport, like the whole cool thing about sport is having that crowd, having the energy off the crowd, just seeing the occasion when you're playing, or even when you're in the stands. Like if you're in the stands by yourself, it's never as cool as when you're in a packed house and everyone's just loving the game. I mean, that's what sport's all about. So to see sport without crowds is pretty tough. I mean, oh, there's a good photo there. It's my family at London Irish. There's me. Well, that's going back, that one there. That's Joburg with the kid.
Going back, way back.
Yeah. So, I mean, a crowd's a massive part of sport. And, I mean, it's never quite the same watching a game without a crowd. I know they're trying to, like, make crowd sounds and things to make it sound and look realistic. But it's never, you need the crowd to really get that energy. So I do think it will take a little bit out of it. But I mean, if the rugby's good, people will still be watching for sure. I mean, this doesn't take anything away from the spectacle watching, but playing, and obviously you can't be there. So it will be affected, I think.
No, definitely. And I mean, are there any matchups that you looking forward to seeing in this tour? I mean, there is quite a number of English players that would want to actually get on back against the South Africans when they come to SA later the year.
It's going to be really interesting to see the team that they pick, like the squad. There's a lot of form players at the moment, whether they go on form or reputation. It's going to be a really interesting team, and not just the squad, but the actual starting 15. So,
James, can I just come in there real quick?
Real
quick. So you spoke about form and reputation. So where do you draw the line here? Because the English have not had the best Six Nations season, whereas the other teams were just flourishing. I mean, the Welsh, the Irish didn't play too bad themselves, and the French had quite a good team. But I mean, just looking at the teams that would form part of the British and Irish Lions, how many English players will be in that team?
I don't think as many as last time, obviously, but I still think the key guys will be there. I think Farrell will still be there. Atoje and those guys will still be there. I mean, they're world-class players. So it is a tough one. I mean, it's a tough coaching decision, especially when you're picking from different sides like that. Do you go with combinations? These two guys playing together? Well, can we take that and bring that over to the British and Irish Lions, or are we better to just pick our best players? So there'll be a lot of thought going into that at the moment, I could imagine. And like I said, it's going to be interesting to see who's in that final 15.
Now it's going to be quite interesting, and I think close to the time, myself and you definitely have to have a chat about that, just to see how things are going from the time that we predicted it. I mean, James, you've had a phenomenal career in rugby, and I mean, just looking at life after rugby, this is a topic that isn't given enough attention during any rugby player's career, and we've seen a lot of players struggle with its mental health, whether it's financially or with their family lives. What have you done to sort of help yourself with life after rugby and sort of create that cushion so that you don't have that hard fall like many other rugby players had?
Yeah, that's a good question, because like you said, it is something that every rugby player goes through at some point, and it's been something that I've been thinking about for pretty much since I started. Like they're quite good in New Zealand, how we've got like player development officers who are basically, their role is to make sure that you're sorted after rugby. So each team has one of those. So they're always constantly working with you. You can ask them about anything if you want to have a taste of something or try something out or start studying or something like that. So and they're always sort of asking you, like, what do you want to be, and that sort of thing. So I always had a bit of a plan and in place of what I wanted to do, but it's really hard to start executing on that while you're playing, because you're still so busy, and you don't want your rugby to drop off. You don't want your form to drop off. So there was always a little bit of anxiety around that for me. But I guess in terms of the financial side, that was a big thing for me. So the back end of your rugby financials sort of goes up and up and up as your career goes, for whatever reason. And then as soon as you finish, it's just gone. So my plan was to always have a 2-year, sort of set myself up so that 2 years after my career, I'd have enough money to cover myself for 2 years, to sort of take that pressure off me to not have to go straight into a job and make money. So I think a lot of guys live their lifestyle. As they got the paychecks, that their lifestyle just grows, and they're buying better cars and living a more fancier lifestyle. And then they get to the end of their career and they're like, oh, now what? So I've got nothing. So that's where the real sort of depression and all that sort of comes in, because they're just not expecting it. So I think being planned and making a bit of a plan around your exit of rugby is really crucial. And the financial side is one of them, because you're not going to make the money when you're finished as what you were playing. So as long as you're prepared around that and you've got a bit of a plan in place, I think you can be fine. But you'll still miss parts of the game. Like I had Conrad Smith on a couple of weeks ago, and he spoke about it really well. Like you're still going to miss parts of the game because you love playing rugby so much. And nothing will quite replicate it. Like you're not going to get the banter in the changing rooms. Like no matter what work you go into, you're not going to get that. So be prepared for that, and just make a bit of a plan would be my advice.
Yeah, and what are some of the plans that you've put in place now? Where can we be looking out for James Marshall, or let's say James Marshall 2.0 after rugby?
Yeah, so I always wanted to be a coach. Like I always loved the tactical side of the game, or the analysis side of the game. But just with the amount of moving we did as a family, I sort of said to my wife once I finished rugby, I'm happy to settle, because I mean, I got my oldest kid's 5 now. He's just started school. So that was always sort of a plan. Once he started school, I didn't want to keep moving around chasing a coaching dream, because I felt like I'd done that enough chasing my rugby dream. So I sort of said to my wife that I won't chase the coaching dream, and I'll just if wherever we settle, if a coaching gig came up, well then that would be the dream. So we've decided to settle in Nelson, where I grew up, and thankfully a coaching job at Tasman's come out. So last year I sort of just shadowed the coaches, all did that, pretty much voluntary. So got to sort of get my foot in the door there, and now this year they've offered me an opportunity to be an assistant coach, which I'm really looking forward to. And I'm also working up at the local college here, Nelson College, and working with some young guys with a rugby class. They've got a class at their school where you can take rugby as a subject, because it's a career path these days. So I'm working with some real talented kids who want to become professional rugby players. So I'm really enjoying that, seeing these young guys pretty much like I was at Nelson College, wanting to be a professional rugby player, and sort of helping them or guiding them as best as I can to see out their dream of becoming a professional rugby player. So it's 2 things I'm doing, and obviously I'm doing the What a Lad on the side as well, which probably takes up the most time. To be fair, it's there's a fair bit to a podcast. Hey, like pretty much goes unnoticed, but I'm loving it. I'm loving my 3 roles at the moment, and I'll just sort of see which one progresses, and or which one I enjoy the most, and probably look to focus more on those ones.
And it's so nice to branch out. I mean, you are on the one side of the world, and I'm right down at the other. It's so great to see how we can interact and have such great conversations, with rugby being the, let's say, the catalyst to what sparks these amazing conversations and content.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the cool thing about where we've got to with technology. I mean, you wouldn't even have been able to do this 10 years ago. That's just the way it's all growing, and it's cool. I most of my podcasts now are just on the computer. I mean, the first season I tried to do them all in person, but I was getting pretty limited with what sort of guests I could get on, especially living in Nelson. So I feel like you don't lose too much quality. It is always better in person, but I mean, how good technology is these days, it's pretty impressive of how good of conversation you can have. And it's been real cool for me personally to just connect with different players who I haven't seen for ages, or see what they're up to, and just and even get a bit of a background into what their life was growing up and what their journey was, because you don't really know that. You know them from the time you were there, but you never really sit down with someone and go through this sort of whole journey. So I've really enjoyed doing it, and like you say, being able to connect with someone like you on the other side of the world and just talk rugby is all these things are really cool experiences.
No, definitely. And we're certainly going to have to do it sometime soon. James, I definitely look forward to coming to New Zealand, joining up with you and your media team. Certainly create some amazing content for your team while we're there. But look, that's all we have time for this evening. I definitely look forward to a part 2 with it. And who knows, maybe we'll have it the other way around with Thaakir Dawood on What a Lad, and not James Marshall on TD Online.
Sounds good, mate. Love it. Love your work. Thanks for having me on. It's been a good yarn. Good to get some background into South African rugby as well.
It's always a pleasure, James. Thanks so much. I hope you have a good day further. For me, it's a little bit past my bedtime, knowing that I'm in South Africa. Hey, good evening and welcome to TD Online. That was an interview done earlier this week with the New Zealander, James Marshall. What an interesting guy he is. Amazing topics. I mean, it's so crazy to think how the New Zealanders love South Africa. And we got to chat rugby. For those of you that missed out on it, we did chat about the British and Irish Lions tour. We chatted about his 2016 Super Rugby final where they beat the Lions in the Cape Town. Yep, that is the scenes, that are the images of that final. We just chatted about everything, and he wanted to know so much more about South Africa, South African rugby, and I shed some light on it. And I hope that you guys enjoyed that interview. For those of you that joined in late and you missed it, you can catch it on Facebook. It will be on YouTube as well. Yeah. That is the interview I've done with James Marshall. But right now, I'm going to be chatting to a very special individual. He is all the way in Cape Town. He goes by the name of Taariq van der Ross. Assalamu alaikum. Shukran for joining me this evening.
Assalamu alaikum, Dawood, and good evening and salam to all the listeners and viewers.
Hey, it's such a pleasure having you on the show, man. I've heard about some of the good work that you're doing in Cape Town. You have a boxing match coming up this weekend, looking rather conditioned, I must say. How's the prep? Or before we get into that, just educate myself and the South African public. Or let's say, because the show is international, just had James Marshall on the show from New Zealand. What exactly is the fight for, and what is the cause behind it all?
Okay, we're based down in Strand in the Western Cape, in Cape Town, and the guys involved are normally involved in club rugby. Myself and the guy I'm fighting, Manwill Williams, we've been involved with club rugby for almost 30 years. So most of the guys will know us from a club rugby point of view. But a good friend of ours that is currently the head coach at St.Georges Rugby Club in Strand, which is one of the older clubs in Strand, one of the better known clubs down in Cape Town. He's been diagnosed with stage 5 kidney failure. His name is Mirwaan Davids, well-respected player and coach in the Cape Town area. And because he always played in the number 20 for some reason, he's known as MD20, which stands for Mirwaan number 20. And since he's been diagnosed with this kidney failure, we've all been looking for ways to raise funds. Best we can. The COVID situation has put the gun in the works. And then myself, Manwill Williams, someone by the name of Lyndon Julius, and Zaid, we've come together and we needed to get an idea how we could raise funds, selling big numbers of tickets without having those big numbers at a venue. And the thing that came to mind was a boxing match. So it was out of our comfort zone. I took some research. We got to a boxing gym. Then we were looking at who would be the fighters in this fundraiser, and myself and Manuel looked at each other and we thought, might as well be us. Our rugby days are gone. Let's give it one last, bash. And for our friend Mirwaan.
Did you ever consider giving him a shot or two before you thought of stepping in the ring? And was the ring just now an outlet to get all that frustration out of him?
I tell you, with if the heart and the mind is still young, but the body's at 42, always looking for a way for an outlet, and then boxing match.
Yeah, St. Manuel's been working hard in the gym. He's even missing tonight's interview because he's out there getting one more session in than you. He's put in the hard work in and the hours. How's your conditioning? And look, first, let me commend you on the amazing work that you're doing. And for all of those that are watching the show, you can obviously get in contact with Taariq. We will share his contact details with you guys, and you can buy tickets to the event. Also, if you want to make any donation out of the goodness of your heart, I will forward you his information. I will put it up on the page. However, earlier this week, my personal Facebook account with majority of my followers and my following was hacked, and I have no access to it. That's why I will be using my page mainly to communicate with everybody. But Taariq, we'll definitely do what we can on our side to assist you with everything. And I mean, come on, a boxing match, man. Tell me, how's the training been going? Moving from rugby training to boxing training, how's the conditioning been going? Can your body still take the knocks and the hits?
So what happened? We've actually started training about 7 months ago. And myself and Manny often joke about the first time we walked in the gym, and we tried to hit the bag in half. And that's, of course, not the way to go. And it's really been hard work. Early mornings, 6:30, 6 in the gym for an hour, 6 in the evening, back in the gym. I think Manuel has lost about 24 kg. So he's
Is he trying to get into the lightweight section to compete with you?
So it's been hard work. And then if you look at, if I consider what we've put in over the last 4 weeks, it's a drop in the ocean of what professional boxers or MMA fighters are doing. But it's really hard work. But, that competitive spirit kicks in. And, we, as the guy at the gym is always joking, with the sparring sessions, he warned the guys, stay away from Manny and Taariq. Those two guys
Why,
are like
though?
pit bulls. we street fight. But as time has gone by, as we've got fitter, we've worked hard on our technique. The guys at CUI Boxing have been awesome. That's one of the coaches, Coordinator, up on the screen now. He's a professional MMA fighter. He's put in lots of hours with us. And that's been his contribution to the event. The other coach being Anati and the owner Abri. We've had great fun at the gym, and it doesn't compare to rugby training. I have to say that.
It's so nice that the entire community's come together, and I think we can actually get the whole entire rugby community involved as a whole as well. Because as we know, it doesn't just stretch in with where you from the Cape. It comes right up till inland, and even we can make this thing go global. Because that's how I got a hold of you guys. Manny sent me this thing on WhatsApp, and I was like, yo, cool. Tell me how we can get involved and make this happen. So you've been boxing it out, getting in the gym. What other initiatives do you guys have running for Mirwaan?
His club, St.Georges, they've been involved with a few stuff. Again, because COVID restricts certain stuff. They've had car washes, Boerewoord prize. It ticks along, but we always had this one big event in mind. If we could have a rugby match in Srine, believe me, we'll get 10,000 people at the match.
With the regulations now, do you think it's possible? SARO has given the go-ahead to return to contact training.
Yeah, we're at that level. I know the clubs have been a 4-week fitness, and now they've gone into 4-week contact. But to control crowd control in terms of numbers at a big match in Strand is impossible. I promise you when I tell you we get up to 10,000 people at a match in Strand, and St.Georges being one of those clubs that are the crowd pullers. I just don't see it happening in the next 6 months down here in Cape Town.
It is quite strange situations and conditions. I hope that you guys now say there's quite strange conditions right now, and I really hope that you guys can pull this one together and hopefully have some more things that we can watch. I know that. So let's get back to that boxing match. The boxing match is happening this weekend. People can obviously get their tickets on Quicket. Is it on Quicket, if I'm not mistaken? Yeah. Is that correct? And how much do the tickets cost?
The tickets are 150. The tickets for the venue, because we limit to about 80 people, are sold out. But I know the tickets on Cricket are selling well. The people are supporting, the people in Strand, the people in Cape Town. We've had someone from New Zealand. We've had the Bordeaux coach, Heine Adams, that previously played for the Bulls. He's bought tickets. Friends of ours down in Canada, coaching rugby at schools in Canada, they bought tickets. So, it's so amazing to think that we're involved in a boxing match and people all around the world will be watching it.
It's nice. It's nice.
Yeah,
to support such a great cause. Like we were chatting to, James Marshall. And he was telling us that it's crazy how he's on one side of the world and I'm on the other. But because of this mutual love for rugby, we come together and we can have such great conversations. And it's nice to see that the goodwill of people around the world is actually coming together and supporting this cause.
Yes, it is. And I mean, even though it's a boxing event, I promise you a large portion of the people are connected with our, through rugby. The guys at club level, guys that moved up to provincial level, international level, coaching overseas. But we're all connected somehow through rugby. And it's testament to how big club rugby is down here in the Western Province.
Yeah, Western Province club rugby is massive. It's massive. And how you guys adapting to it with all of these regulations and not having this uncertainty of when we can go back to playing?
Yeah, it's been tough. I think even not just for the players, but for the spectators as well. Club rugby is a culture down in Cape Town. Saturday afternoons for 7 months, that's where people get together. People are traveling from one corner being Gordons Bay Strand to the other corner being Franshoek or Marmarie. And just on that point, there is guys that have bought tickets out in Marmarie, out in Franshoek, Scottsdene.
Nice.
Thank you to all those guys. There's guys driving from those areas to come watch the fight as well. And I think there's all, mutual respect for the within the rugby club rugby fraternity for each other. But it's definitely been tough for 2 seasons.
I can imagine. So let's go back to the training part of it. You've got about 4 days to the fight. What's your training schedule been looking like? What are your final preparation training that you've been going through? What can we expect from you? How are you going to take this fight on? Are you going to be the tactical guy, or are you just going to go all out and try and get Manny down in the first 2 rounds?
The last month we've been training quite hard. I've actually concluded my training this morning. Manny, I think, concluded his this afternoon. Based on age, based on the effort we've put in, we need about 2 days rest. 3 minutes per round is not as easy as it seems. I'll be the first to admit that. In terms of tactics, I think Manny's tactics will be to hit my head off as soon as possible. I don't think he wants to see the 3rd round. I'm planning to go the other way around and maybe tie him down and have a go at it in the fourth round.
Yes, damn it. I wish you all the best, and I wish Manny all the best. I wish he was here to defend himself. As what has your family said? I mean, you at your old age going out there, putting your body on the line. What was the family's thoughts on this?
They're not all agreeing with it. But, having been involved for 25 years in club rugby and then, 2 or 3 seasons without that action, this is right up our alley, myself and Manny, we've been talking about.
Anything for a little bit of action.
We see a wrestling match coming up in 6 months' time. We came for anything.
No, I can just imagine. And I mean, just before I do let you go, any information that you can share with everybody else besides the links and stuff like that on where they can get hold and buy tickets for the fight, where they can donate, who to contact, where do we start? What's the go-to?
Okay, so of course the link on Quicket, if you'd like to buy a ticket online. Alternatively, if I can give my cell number.
Yeah, that's perfect.
0844 239 396, and feel free to contact me on WhatsApp. And if there's anything I'm not sure, I'll pass it on to the other guys. But we'll get the info to whoever's needing info on how to buy tickets or make a donation.
Nice, perfect. Taariq, thank you so much for your time this evening. I wish you all the best, and I wish Manny the best as well, all the best as well. I hope that he actually comes to the party. He decided to skip this interview and basically get an extra training session in.
Yeah, I'll pass a message on to him. Thaakir, thanks for your contribution. I'm a follower of your show, and it's awesome being on it now.
Shukran. We hope to profile you and your club rugby, and obviously we do a post-fight interview next week Wednesday. Just make sure that Manny pitches up this time and he doesn't disappear.
I'll do that. Shukran, Thaakir.
Okay, shukran so much. There, the information is on screen for everybody else there that is watching and would like to know more about the fight and what the cause is for. We really hope that they do get all of that funds in time to obviously hand it over to Mirwaan and his family so that they can take care of his medical bills, because we do know it is quite hefty. So come on, South Africa, let's do this. Let's keep in that spirit and that mood that everybody was in during hard lockdown, where we were proper South Africans and looked after one another. But yeah, from that, Taariq, thank you so much. I look forward to chatting to you real soon.
We chat soon, Thaakir. Shukran.
Fun, always a pleasure. That was Taariq van der Ros telling us more about his boxing match he has up this weekend. It's going to be a tough one. Taariq or Manny, who's it going to be? We're going to run a poll on social media and see who exactly is going to be the winner of that fight. Next up, we're going to be previewing the Varsity Cup. It's going to be a big one. It's going to be massive. We have to back our boykies, like they say. It's going to be exciting. We're going to be chatting to David Sutu, who's been the guy behind the scenes, pulling the strings and making sure that the UJ team can perform successfully. David, good evening. Thank you for joining me. I know it's so difficult getting hold of you UJ guys.
Good evening, Mr. Dawood, and to your viewers. Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure. Varsity Cup coming up this weekend. Are you guys ready?
Look, man, as a rugby club, as an institution, we are very happy that we are able to get some game time again this year. And yes, I can confidently say we are ready to kick off on Sunday.
No, it's going to be quite interesting. David, this year's tournament's taking place in a bio bubble. What was part of your preparation to get the guys ready for it?
It's a very different setup, which is challenging, but I think all participating institutions have to adjust to the current setup. Look, we spend quite a lot of time behind the scenes, obviously, referring to preseason training now, to make sure that we get the boys ready in terms of fitness first before we can look into the game plans and the tactics. But we have spent quite a relevant amount of time on preparing the boys to balance both fitness and game plans. And I think today we are ready, looking at the results.
Nice, nice. It's going to be interesting. First one up against CUT. UJ has obviously gotten the better of CUT for the longest time. I think recently CUT got the better of UJ. If it was in your last meeting, David, how are you guys going to bounce back? We've seen that 2020 was 2019 season and the a bit of last year. Results didn't really go UJ's way. And how do you get these guys motivated for the season ahead?
Yes, it's been some time since we last played CUT. Obviously, we last played them 2019 because last year the season was cut short. I think it's gonna take a bit of some mental strength and confidence and being clinical, as our captain usually says, to get back, into the game and go against a side like CUT, who look relatively competitive, but we believe that we can stand stronger.
No, definitely. I think that you guys certainly will stand in stronger. Who have you guys got in your team? Some new recruits that we can look out for. I've seen that the Curry Cup campaigner, Shergan Phyllis is in the setup. Taariq February is in the setup. There's some provincial players there. You guys aren't playing any games at all.
Yes, we do have a mix of provincial players, thanks to the Golden Lions for affording us the opportunity to make use of the players. We've got the likes of Bolden Hansen, who also played for SA Under 20. We've got the likes of Ulrich Claessens, who's still training with the squad. Obviously, like you mentioned, as well, Shagan Phyllis is in the mix. So we do have quite a few boys. Prince and Kamide is here as well. Philip Abiadu, just to mention a few. So we have a good balance of provincial players and players of our own who play at first team level. So when the boys come together, they do give us good combinations that we can go and fight with.
Nice. We're definitely looking forward to it. I mean, the entire Johannesburg will be behind you guys. I do know that myself being a UJ alumni, how can I not support the men in orange? David, I mean, you guys have such a long season ahead of you guys and kicking off this weekend against CUT. Definitely looking forward to it. What is your game plan? Not for the match, but to keep the players mentally strong throughout this time period being in the bio bubble. I mean, it's going to be it's going to be 1 week in a bio bubble, 1 week out. But I mean, to have that process for an entire month, we've seen that the PSL teams did say it affected their performance quite a bit. Do you think that it will affect your performance?
I think we are definitely going to need all the support we can get from the city, given that we're going to play without spectators. Luckily, we have the assistance of the sports psychology office from the university, whereby on a weekly basis, and we players do check in with our sports psychologist just to get that assistance of balancing both academics and sport. But I think a lot of weight is going to fall on our conditioning coaches to make sure that players recover well and are ready for the next hit out. But I think the combination of the conditioning coaches and our sports psychology office, together with the coaches, will form that triangular assistance to make sure that we balance where we can, and at every game we come out as fresh as possible.
No, we're definitely looking forward to it, and hopefully soon we can have a catch up with the UJ team again, hear how the season's going, some exclusive interviews in the bio bubble with your players. I mean, there's just so much content that's to be made. So I'm gonna have you on speed dial and make sure that we keep popping keep popping the content through on the page and getting everybody interacting. David, talking about interaction, where can the rest of the Facebook community and the YouTube community and everybody watching online get hold of you guys?
So we will be communicating throughout the campaign, both on FNB UJ Rugby on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and at UJ Sport on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, to make sure that we keep our audience getting all the live updates from inside the bubble. and for those, and also we'll be having 5 TV games in the campaign. So I think people should make sure that they follow our social media pages at FNUJ Rugby and at UJ Sports to make sure that they get the latest updates.
Nice. Well, there you heard it straight from their communication manager's mouth. David, you've got enough about the team. Let's get to you real quick before we let you go. I do know that you've got a jam-packed evening ahead of you. Your role as a, let's say you've played the role of team manager. You've played so many different roles in that team and communications. You've now stepped up to give the fans a inside look on what it's like in the UJ camp. Are you going to be doing that throughout the bio bubble?
Yes, I will be attending the bubbles, and I'll from the communications perspective of the university and the club itself, we will definitely try to give as much latest feed as possible to make sure that we make our fans feel part of the bubble, even though they are not physically inside with us.
Oh, David, that's amazing. We're definitely looking forward to that. All the best for your Varsity Cup season ahead. And I wish you all the best. And to the rest of the team and the boys, I hope you pass the message on to them. Also, if I can, on this platform, let's say from the Golden Lions as well, wish you guys all the best from all the clubs. We wish in our varsities all the best so that you guys can go out there and represent. I mean, there's no excuse not to get a semi-final or a final. No pressure.
On behalf of the institution and the club itself, we definitely thank you guys for the massive support even before we kick off. We will definitely keep everybody updated, and we will never forget the support that we always get from the community out there. We really appreciate it.
No, definitely. Your Orange Army is certainly behind you, the same way we were when Sister Bettina played through that speakers at UJ. Have a great evening further. There we go.
Cheers,
you've got it.
Man.
Cheers, David. Have a great evening further, man. That was David Sutu, the manager of the UJ rugby team, sharing a bit of light into their preparation for the 2021 Varsity Cup season. Yep, Varsity Cup is back on our screens. We're going to be starting off on Sunday with a jam-packed lineup. Sunday, Monday, we've got a Marties and UCT derby. It's just going to be so intense, so interesting. I'm definitely looking forward to it. For those of you that want to know more about UWC, we did chat to their team manager, Anissa Adams, a few weeks ago, and you can check it out on our Facebook page. Check that interview out and hear what's her thoughts on the Varsity Cup and also her preparation for the tournament and also a new role she took as the first women's team coach at UWC. Well, that's it from TD Online. That's our time up for the evening. I hope that everybody enjoyed the show, the content, and please make your contributions towards the fight taking place this weekend between Manwill Williams and Taariq van der Ross. Let's get some funds in there for Mirwaan Davids so that we can assist him with his medical bills. Yep, South Africa, let's be great South Africans and show the rest of the world how it's done. If you missed anything, go back. It's going to be online. It's going to live online. We did interview James Marshall, the Hurricanes fullback and fly-off earlier in the show, and he told us a bit about rugby down in New Zealand and also what it was like winning the 2016 Super Rugby in the Cape Town against the Lions. Heartbreaking moment for us Joburg boys, but yeah, that is life, I guess, and there has to be a winner and a loser in sport. That's it from us tonight. Good evening. I hope everybody has a good evening further and a great weekend ahead.